The content of this party is sent to a third party. Oh, we are. Hello. Welcome to our July edition of Reading from Our Shelves. I'm Tara from Canada Reads American Style. And there's Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi.
And we are
Yes.
here. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I think, hold on, I'm just clicking everything.
Yeah,
I'm just clicking on everything because I'm trying to fine tune how we start, and I think I might have it down this time.
awesome. I think so.
Is it still live streaming?
Yeah, I
Okay.
believe so. I
Hope
can, here,
so.
I'll check quickly on my phone. Sorry, we
Okay.
are the August edition of this is going to be flawless. I swear.
Sure. I
But it
believe you.
totally is. But we are here
Because,
in July and we missed June, I think, right?
yes, we did, because I
Yeah,
went back and looked, and May was the last one we did. So we missed June. This is July. Is it live
yeah,
streaming still?
it is. We're good.
Beautiful. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to start off? What are you currently reading before we get to our shelves?
Yeah.
Tell me what you're currently reading.
Okay. I'm currently reading
Mhm.
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
I did not go to a good school where I read a lot of classic literature that you read in high school. So one of our good friends, Jen, told me she was reading it, and I said, "Oh, I've never read it." And she said, "Hey, how about we buddy read?" So we're reading it. I didn't realize it's so short. It's like 158 pages or something.
Huh.
So we're gonna just do. There's like third sort of three chapters. We'll do one chapter, discuss, and then keep going. And
Okay.
yeah, so I'm really glad to be doing this with someone because, especially with classic literature, I miss a lot of the obvious things. Like when you and I read James, I missed a really big thing, and you explained it to me. Thank God we read that together because it was a great thing to learn from others when you buddy read.
Yeah, I
So,
agree. I agree. Um,
well, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. That was going to be my question. Like, how are you two doing your buddy read? Because you're the only person I've done a buddy read with. And you and I tend to just read the book and then get together for like a big discussion at the end.
Yeah. In fact, we did a Zoom meeting, which was really fun. I thought that was really fun to do it that way. And I don't know how we're going to do it. I'm going to suggest we do a Zoom just because I think that's kind of, I really like that format because then I can see you and see the
Yeah.
person and all that. But I'm not quite sure. But I've almost finished the first chapter, and I'll let her know. And she's done a lot of buddy reads, I think. So I'll
Yeah.
kind of let her lead on that. And I just want to mention, the other one I am currently reading, I can't show the cover because it's a library book and it looks like that, but it is The Fountain Overflows by Rebecca West, who I honestly had never heard of. She's a
Yeah.
British classic author. I just didn't know her. And again, Jen had recommended this one, said she knows what I like to read. She said, I think you'll really like this one. I've just started it, but I stopped to read Fahrenheit. And then the other one I got, and you said you had read it, which I was really excited. I'm going to read after that, but another library book, Wide
Yeah.
Sargasso Sea, which I had never read. So that's kind of where
Okay.
my reading is right now.
Wow, you have a lot. You have a lot going on for your currently reading.
But the Fahrenheit and Wide Sargasso Sea, both of those are really short.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. But
So
still,
what are you reading?
I just have one to go with today because even I don't have a nonfiction currently because I just finished it. It's in my pile here that I'll share later on, but I haven't started a
Hmm.
new nonfiction. So I am currently reading The Song of Wrath by Sarah Raughley. So it's book two in the trilogy, the Bones of Ruin trilogy. Sarah Raughley is a Canadian author, lives here in Ontario. I think she's also a professor of I can't remember what I should know, but I can't remember. But I will find out because I am in the middle of talking to her to get a set up a date to
You
do an
are
interview for the podcast. So I'm very excited. Yes, this just happened, and I haven't had a chance to
nice,
tell you like otherwise. So I'm telling you now. So
exciting.
this is a I'm really enjoying it. They're big books. It's uh set in 1884. We start off in book one starts off in London, and hmm, I don't want to say too much because where I'm on book two, I don't want to ruin anything for
Yeah.
book one for those who will read it. But the book one starts off with we have a group of teenagers who, due to an explosion that had happened maybe 10 to 15 years earlier, find themselves with special powers.
Mhm.
And these special powers are noticed by a group of well-to-do white people who use those young people in a tournament in ways to better service them. And those with powers are all people of color. So it
Mhm.
addresses a lot of issues of racism, colonialism,
Yeah.
misogyny in a fantasy world set in historical England at the time, too. In book two, we've actually moved to Africa as well, which is really, I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, yeah,
Did you say it's a trilogy
yes,
or okay, it is
yeah,
a trilogy.
yeah. So
And
the
is it
book three just came out recently.
and it stops as a trilogy or does it continue or as
I
far
think
as you
it's
know?
just the three books. As far as I
Okay.
know, just the three books. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you read the first one not that long ago, right?
Yes, it's here in my pile actually too.
Oh,
Of
okay.
that
Yeah.
reading from the shelves one. Yeah.
Because you can get because those are they look like chonker books. They look pretty hefty. So
Yeah.
it is, right? So
Yeah,
that's
it is.
amazing. Yeah.
And you know what? Like she's a great writer. And you know how some books you can fly like the language? No, that's not quite. The writing allows you
Hmm.
just to flow. Like you're just getting a narrative and that's and you just kind of flow. And as long as you get the plot, you can just fly through it. I do
Yeah.
not find her writing to be like that in the sense that she packs a lot of stuff in her writing. So
Hmm.
if I'm only paying attention to like the plot, I'm missing stuff. You know,
Hmm.
does that make sense? So like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot in there. So like it takes longer to get through because I'm paying attention. I want to pay attention to what she's like really putting in there as opposed to just like a whole bunch of kids are fighting each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
there's more to her writing than just the plot.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I admire you because I struggle with the really big books. So
Yeah.
because
But
I just
you're
have such a short attention span. So yeah.
yeah. No,
So
I'm
so I
enjoying it.
think so you're the person to go to for the big books,
Yeah.
the big good books. I'm the one for the shorter titles. So
Yeah. We both have our niches.
what's that?
I said we both have our niche.
There you
We
go.
compliment.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You
I'm
start
gonna
it off.
Yeah, I'm going to start, and I'm going to actually do four. I have four picture books I really want to highlight.
Mhm.
I'm doing that challenge, the inclusive challenge, and I'll put it in the show notes. I can't remember. It's reading. I think it's reading with Red and Magpie is the Instagram account, and it's a inclusive, diverse reading for the year. And there's 24 prompts. And I was all of a sudden I realized I only had read like three or four, and so I thought, oh, I better get moving on that this year. And these four,
And sorry to
three of them,
interrupt,
go
Rebecca.
ahead.
Does the challenge focus on picture books? Is that the
Yes,
okay?
yes. It is a picture book challenge.
Okay.
And I will say, if when I put the account in there, if anyone is looking for recommendations of a wide variety of topics, picture book wise, you cannot find a better account than this one, Reading with Red and Magpie. She's a homeschooling mom. She has a phenomenal account. I would recommend it to anyone. So if you have anyone in your family raising kids and they need recommendations, check out this account. She's phenomenal.
Awesome.
Okay, so three of my books fit into that category, but the last one I want to share just because it's so beautiful. So the first one is We
Mm.
Need Everyone. And this is by Michael Redhead Champagne. And I just interviewed him. He was hilarious and profound and interesting. He's an Indigenous author and activist in the Winnipeg area, and he just published this book. It came out in January in Canada, but it came out in May, I think, in the United States. And I actually had gotten this copy from the publisher, and I loved it. And that interview is coming shortly. And we actually have a bunch of interviews sort of backed up that will be coming out pretty close together. So you have a lot to look forward to in that way. But basically, it's just about three tips he gives to find out what your gift is. And this is a great way to have discussions with children. But I have to admit, when I was reading it, I was thinking about, wow, like what's my gift? And I kind of went through the process. And I decided that my gift is doing interviews with small press authors because it is a wonderful way they have such a difficult time getting the word out about their books. And Tara and I think have done a wonderful job interviewing so many small press authors. And we believe that you're enjoying that because we're getting feedback. And it's such a wonderful thing to do. And I love that we're doing that. So we also interview big names too, but the small press ones are just so much fun.
They need us
Other
more.
one, yeah, this one is You're So Amazing. And as you can see, the little boy in the middle has one leg. And I love this because, as you know, some people may know, I raise service dogs for people with disabilities other than blindness. And this is so fabulous because it's about a little boy who everyone who encounters him, as soon as they just see him because he has one leg, they'll say, "You're so amazing." And he's sitting there getting really confused, like, I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing here, or I'm just going to school, or I'm playing with my friends. Eventually, he finds something that he is amazing at, and he gets praised in the right way for being amazing, not just because he's a boy, living with a disability, but because he is amazing at something. And I love the message in that because I think too often, um, talking to many of my friends who are disabled, we often put them on a pedestal of, oh, they've suffered so and they're so amazing because of that. And it's like they're just regular people
Yeah.
with, maybe an extra challenge. So I love that book. This one, Barrio Rising, and it says oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Chicano Park. So it's the protest that built Chicano Park. So there's a park, there's a community in 1970 in San Diego where there was this confluence of freeways, and they said they were going to put a park there, and then of course at the last minute they decided to put a police station there instead of a park. Well, the community just had a fit, and of course it was mostly people of color, lower income people who lived in this community because of course they ran these freeways right through their
Mhm.
communities. And they fought to say, no, you told us it was going to be a park. It's going to be a park. It's been there since 1970-ish or 70, early 70s. And they paint murals on um the I don't
Underpass.
pylons or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not it's actually the things the freeway sits on. So it's
Yep.
hard to explain. I think actually, here's a go. It kind of shows
Oh,
you the
yep. Yep.
picture. And I highly recommend just look it up online. Look up Chicano Park online, and these murals are so beautiful. And I think it's even been considered like now like a heritage site in the US. It's been there for so long. And they have things for kids to do in that area. It's absolutely beautiful. Shows the power of what community can do. Loved it. And my last picture book, now this one doesn't make the inclusive challenge, but I just had to share this. It's called The Yellow Bus. And and he's like a New York Times bestselling author, illustrator. It's Loren Young. And he said every day when he went running through this wooded area near his home, there was an old yellow abandoned bus. And what he does is he imagines um, how that bus got there. And one of the things that I love about this is the whole illustration is all black and white unless you're touching the bus. And then whoever is touching the bus turns to color. So you can see this kid's foot is on the step. He's in color. Everybody else is still black and white, and the bus is yellow. And I've done this many times in my life. I've seen something in the middle of somewhere, and you go, "How'd that get there?" In fact, a friend of mine, he's a photographer, and he lives in Washington State, and in the middle of nowhere, he found a Pullman car, like an old classic one car Pullman car, sit in the middle of a field, and he filmed the inside of it and everything. It was really kind of amazing. But again, it's like, how in the world did this one Pullman car end up in the middle of a field? So I love those kind of stories, but I love how he imagines how this bus got there. And I'm going to tell you, I think it's very emotional. It's a very beautiful story. So anyway, those are my 4 picture books that I wanted to share.
Awesome. Awesome. Those
Yeah.
look beautiful. I apologize for that sound that just interrupted you a few minutes ago because I did go on my Google Maps and I could punch in Chicano Park and
I
get
hear you.
pictures
Sorry.
of it. But also hit a video and that's what you got. But yeah, you can find really nice pictures of the murals through Google Maps too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. What's yours
Okay.
first?
I'll go. My first book is nonfiction, and it is Fungal Foraging in the Urban Forest by Ariel Gordon. So I brought this one to our audio podcast, I think several months ago, but this I'd received an ARC. It's essays. It's a collection of essays by Ariel Gordon. She lives in Winnipeg about her foraging. She loves mushrooms. She loves
Yeah.
mushrooms. So it's just, they're all mushroom related, whether it's to her actual foraging, her working in a mushroom farm, her collection of mushroom quiche. I always have trouble pronouncing that word.
You mean quiche? You mean like
Yes.
the food quiche?
No,
Okay.
no, no, no. Like
Oh,
the little like tchotchkes, like
oh,
little.
oh, okay.
I'm going to go with tchotchkes instead. Let's
Yeah,
go that. That's a better word.
yeah,
Little things, little mushroom things that she, so that she collects. Anyways, it's fantastic. I like, it was informative, humorous. I loved it. I
yeah.
really love this collection. And it is now, this was an ARC, but it is now out in the world. It's from, the publisher is Woolsack and Wynn. So if you can't find it in your local bookstore, you can purchase it online as well through the publisher.
And I bet you if, or I shouldn't say I bet you, if you had gone into a bookstore and seen that book on the shelf, would you have picked that book up?
Um, I might have, only because I like nature books and science books kind of thing. So I
Yeah,
might have. And plus I
yeah,
do love this cover too. I think it's a really cool cover.
yeah.
But I don't know if I would have seen it in a bookstore. You know what, at the same
Oh,
time, because it's such a small publisher, I think you'd have to go, you're not going to see it in every bookstore. So
yeah.
it may have bypassed me
Hmm.
if they hadn't sent it to me. So, but I
Great.
encourage people, if you like XA collections, mushrooms, check it out.
Yeah,
We'll have it in our show notes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Do you want to do another one since I did so many
Oh,
in a row?
sure. Let's do another. Oh, I got another nonfiction. Again, The 100 Years War on Palestine by Rashid Khalidi. This was amazing. I learned a lot, which is very helpful at the moment with everything that is currently happening in our world. Uh, this was I needed this to help me understand right now what's going on over in Palestine and Israel and with the protests around the world. This set me up really well.
What year was that published?
Let
Do you know
me
offhand?
check. 2020. And it
Okay.
only
Okay, good.
goes to, it's a history of settler colonialism and resistance, 1917 to 2017. So even
Oh, okay.
in the 4 years that this has been published, a lot has
Yeah,
happened as well. So
yeah,
that's a great one. If you're looking for, if you need, like I need it more background to help me understand it. It's a good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a prop for my next book.
Oh, prop.
Props.
Oh, like up in the game. Okay.
Okay,
Oh yeah.
really? What is that? I don't know. Really useful knots. You know,
Yep.
it's so
Yep.
funny. I had a book, I had a gift card and at Barnes and Noble. So I went in there and like when you first walk in the door, they always have those books there.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually bought, there's another one that comes with like playing cards. So each playing card is a knot. And then I brought this book. So I
Oh,
bought like
cool.
sort of two things because they were like $8 a piece. So I was like, what the heck? But
Yeah.
anyway, I've always wanted to know how to tie knots. And so what I'm going to do, because I started to do it and I was getting confused. So I bought some dye, indigo colored dye, and I'm
Okay.
going to dye one of them and then I can follow what I'm doing better. Duh.
Yes.
I don't know
Yes.
why they didn't provide it that way, but whatever. So, yeah, so I'll be tying all kinds of knots. And I was thinking part of the issue for me, I will have to pick maybe like my top three favorite knots, and then I'll keep tying those because
So that you
there's so
can,
many. It's like,
yeah, that it'll become
and I
second nature after a while, hopefully.
exactly. Yeah, and then I won't be sailing, so I'm sure a lot of these knots are sailors knots, and so I won't be doing that. But I thought sometimes, when you have to tie something,
Mhm.
I just do the standard knot thing, and sometimes that doesn't really hold,
Yeah.
or sometimes pulling it off then is a pain in the butt. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so anyway, I thought this way I will learn how to tie knots. So it's a weird thing, but yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
totally, Rebecca. When you told me you bought this, I was like, yeah, that lands for me. I'm like, I see that.
It does.
Okay,
Okay.
my next one. I have Joe Pete by Ian McCulloch. It's been a while since I've read this book. I'm going to have to quickly in my head go through it. It's about a young girl, Joe Pete, who recently lost her father. So it's essentially her grief journey through grief of her loss through her father. But through that, her journey, you also get her family's story. I think it went back even through World War I up until present. Like it just gives you snippets throughout of her whole family's story. Oh, Joe Pete is Indigenous, so you get the the school story, the school, residential school,
Residential school.
racism, everything that her family has. I really enjoyed. I can't remember. I think it was World War I that one of her relatives was in. Like I really liked seeing that part of the Indigenous story as well, because I don't think you get that a lot. The role that they played in the wars and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So local Ontario author. He's actually passed away, I think, a few years ago. I think this was published after his death, but I quite enjoyed it. It's very good.
Yeah,
Nice
that's
cover too.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
an interesting cover. Yeah.
yeah.
So my next one is a book I received as a gift. I was having, I've had it was been a kind of a rough year for me, and a friend sent this to me, which I really appreciate. It's called The Book of Delights by Ross Gay. And Ross Gay is actually a professor. Well, he's first of all, he's a poet, won all kinds of poetry awards, and he teaches at Indiana University. And it's what he decided to do on his birthday was to write one essay a day on things that gave him delight, that made him happy. And the stretch that he goes to sometimes, the things that he can put under the umbrella of a delight are fabulous, inventive, creative, will kind of blow your mind. He's really funny. He's also he gets his point across in a really strong way. He is a person of color, and he has a lot to say about so many things about our world. But anyway, so I started reading like one a day, and there's like 102 essays, right? And he even admits he didn't write. He was going to write every day, but he didn't write every day, so he has 102. And I started out and I said, I'm just going to read one a day and focus on that. And I have to admit, I got to the end of the book and I just couldn't put it down. And I think I read the last 12. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to stop reading it. I just wanted to finish the book. And he has another one out. There's a sequel to it. I think it's more Book of Delights or something like that. And I'm definitely going to read it. I just love this. It was so entertaining and fun. And again, a collection of essays. So if you love essays, oh, and they're really like sometimes one page, no more than 3 pages, and you can see the text. I mean,
Oh,
it's not,
yeah.
the book itself is not very big.
Yeah.
So it's just a really fun sort of side thing you can add to your everyday reading and
Yeah.
really, really enjoy it.
Can I ask you, let's do an exercise. Can you randomly, like just randomly choose an essay and tell me what it's about? Like what his delight was for that day?
Yeah, because see,
Mhm.
I started tagging some of them, but well, I will tell you one. Okay, this is a challenge for everyone. So the friend who gave it to me said she will never look at pecans in the same way again. So there is an essay called Pecans, and I will just say that. But uh, I think, oh, I'll tell you one I love called The Junkie. And what he means by that is, you know how people who grow up low income or don't grow up with a lot of income in families with a lot of income, they have to jig things around and make things work, you know. And so he talks about that. And I said to my friend, Oh my God, that reminded me when I got my first car, the knob to turn the heat on broke
Mhm.
off. And so I had a butter knife. And if I inserted the butter knife in, I could go and turn it on or off. And because it was my car and I lived in Michigan, I got really good at just sticking the knife and going and on or off really quickly. And I'll never forget one time somebody was in my car with me and I just whipped out that butter knife and did that. I think it scared the crap out of him, which was really funny. But it reminded me of that story by reading his essay. So I thought that was really fun. Yeah.
Nice. Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Yep, I'm adding that to my list. That sounds really good.
Yeah. You will love it. You will
Yep.
absolutely love it.
Yeah. I think because I'd heard of it before you read it, but just by the title, I assumed it was kind of like it was a bad assumption. I assumed it was like a chicken soup for the soul kind of book,
Yes.
like where it's just like these be grateful for this, like just
Yeah.
lame, kind of lame, something lame, right? So I didn't realize exactly what it was and I didn't look further into it.
Yeah.
And shame on me.
I Yeah, and I hadn't heard of it, but I totally agree. When I first opened it as my gift, I thought, "Oh, well, this is interesting." But I'm telling you, that's why I say he's really funny, he's sarcastic, he's
Mm,
nasty in a
I
good
like it.
way. I mean, there's just so many things that you get out of it. And yeah, I guarantee anyone who reads it will absolutely love it. In fact, I mentioned it somewhere recently. I can't remember where it was now. And somebody wrote and said, "Oh my gosh, oh, I know. I posted it to my Instagram." And somebody said, "I'm reading it right now." So I thought, oh, that's cool. And I
Yeah.
know they're enjoying it. So yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
my next one is actually book one of the Bones of Ruin trilogy. Ruin. That sounded weird when I said it, but I think I said it correctly. Sorry, I think when
Yeah.
you listen sometimes to yourself speak and you're like, "Ugh." So anyway, sorry, sorry. Too bad this is live. Anyways, the Bones of Ruin trilogy. So book one by Sarah Raughley. I already set it up for you, but look how let's focus on how pretty
Oh
the cover is.
yeah.
I love
It is.
they're really pretty. Yeah, they're beautiful covers. It's part of what no, it's not what drew me, but when I went to pick up the book, I was introduced to the books through an event at our local library here in Burlington. I went, she was at it, and they weren't selling books there at the time. There was like a miscommunication between the bookseller and the library, I think. But anyway, she had been like, "Oh, well, I just was at the local books, like, at the local Indigo just across the street and signed some books." So Keegan and I we ran over and I was able to get like the signed copies of her first and second book.
Oh,
When I
nice.
saw them, I'm like, look how pretty that is. I love these books. They're very,
Now, it just dawned on me, is it set in a real world or is it set in a fictional world?
nope, real world. So
Okay.
it's exactly like uh, London, 1884.
Okay. Well,
It's
that's right. It's
essentially
London.
that, except that some people have special powers. Our
Yeah.
main character, Iris, has an especially special power that she is not fully aware of. Like she is aware of part of her power, and it's her coming into knowledge of her power in the first book. The second book is her really harnessing her power and I'm going to say her rage. Her rage. She's a black character,
I would
and
love that.
yeah, it's kind of cool.
I would love that. I
Yeah,
love Rage. I love
yeah,
Rage.
I like
Hey,
rage.
so if you had a superpower, what would your superpower be?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I do have like a thing in as you and I have both discussed, like I love a book with vengeance, but I'm not really a vengeful person. But maybe
Yeah,
I
me
am.
either.
Maybe I just like I kept it inside because I will. It's funny, I was just talking to Keegan this morning and I'm like, and I was saying to her, like, I'm like, this is not a great trait of mine, but but I'm like, at the same time, I really like this trait, but I'm like, I forgive nothing. I'm like, wow, that's really dark. I'm like, if someone does something to someone I love, I'm
Yeah,
like, time will go, but I'm like, I never forget. I will
yeah,
never forget what that person did to the person that I care for. And I'm
yeah.
like, and I don't think I owe anyone forgiveness. I'm like, like I know what the Bible says and Christians, but I'm like, I owe no one
Right.
deserves my forgiveness if I don't want to give that to them.
Yep.
So oh my gosh, so I'm going deep on this. I'm like, so maybe I do have a vengeance thing. Maybe I
Well,
will.
But I think, yeah, but I think a vengeance is getting retribution. Like
Yes,
you
yes.
actively
That's not my
seek.
superpower, right? That's
Right.
what you're asking. What would my power be? Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough
Well,
one.
I'll tell you mine. If you keep thinking of yours, I'll tell you
Yeah,
mine.
yeah,
Since I was a kid, and I know why, but to this day, I still feel the same way. I wanted like because I used to watch my first show I remember really loving as a kid was Lost in Space. And they had this force field shield they could put over the spaceship so monsters couldn't break through, like couldn't break down their door. So it was an invisible shield over it. And so I always said I wanted to be able to have like just a force field shield around myself. Because as a kid, I was always afraid of monsters and stuff. And so
yeah.
that would be my superpower, is just that I could block everything out. No one could approach me, fire, bombs, whatever. I would just be in my little force field shielded thing. Yeah.
That's a
That would be my
great one.
superpower. Yeah,
That's a
it's
great one.
weird.
No,
Obviously as a kid, I was afraid of a lot of stuff. So
yeah,
I just was
yeah.
trying to protect myself.
No, that's a great one, Rebecca. It's so funny because I think everyone thinks about this from the time that you're little, like what superpower. And I've only thought of whenever I've thought about it, even when I was little, I'm like, oh, to fly would be really cool. But I'm like, but I don't like heights. Maybe that would freak me out a little bit. And I'm like, maybe to be like I've only thought of like the basic ones, right? And if I think of being invisible, I'm like, that would be cool because sometimes you could go where no one sees you. And then I'm like, but then what if you see or hear something that you don't really want to see? And the same with
Yeah.
like everything whenever I've thought about it, I'll think of something and then I always think of the negative side of having that power. So I've never
Yeah.
really come
Mm.
to think of one that I would really like to have, but I've only thought of the basic ones like speed. And I'm like, oh, you're tired and sweaty, like, but I mean, so
Oh my God, you have done that. You're right. Okay, so
yeah,
think of it this way. If you could just take the negative one off the show, off the table, just like no, you can't assign any negative to it.
yeah,
Which one would you pick? Because I'll tell you what, I've thought of flying as well, but I also said the same thing, how scary it would be. But I'll tell
yeah,
you what, when you watch birds, like especially near a lake, when the wind is blowing and they're just sort of coasting in the air, flying,
yeah.
I think that would be like the most amazing superpower.
Yeah. I am going to go with flying because when that's one that has always, like, even when I was a teenager, so silly, I'm driving in the car. Well, not when I was driving. When I was a
Yeah.
passenger, I would look outside because Newfoundland was beautiful and I'd look out at the water and the clouds up above and I would just think about being able to fly and even like being able to jump from cloud to cloud. I don't even
Ooh.
couldn't do that maybe, but
Ooh.
maybe something like that. I'm gonna
Yeah.
think about this and really like tweak it. But I'm
Okay.
going to go with flying as a basic one. Maybe I'm going to go with flying because that I think would be, I do
A
think you
lot of
could do a
people,
lot of good with that.
yeah, and I think a lot of people would pick flying because it does look so amazing when you watch
Yeah.
birds fly, even
Yeah.
the little ones or just the big majestic ones,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be really cool. I like
Yeah.
that. So,
I'm really thinking. I'm still thinking, but yeah, that's not a bad one.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I am going to I'm going to kind of maybe steal your thunder a little bit. I didn't ask you about this up front, or
Hate it
beforehand,
when you
but
feel my thunder.
yeah, I we have Eden Mills. The
Mhm.
lineup at Eden Mills is coming in September, and the tickets are on sale now. And it's a great. And I'll let you talk more about it because you're the
Oh, no,
expert.
no, you go
I'm
ahead.
This is just my second year going, and I'm very very excited. I had such a blast last year. No, I'll let you talk about it a little bit more. And I just want to mention I have two books that I've read in the past, and these two authors are coming. So I'm going to show just one book, and then I'll let you go, and then I'll show the other one. But I am so really, really excited that Tanya Talaga is coming to Eden Mills. And this is Seven Fallen Feathers. And I'll just read this little thing. I'm sure most of you know this book, but I'll just, for any maybe people in the US that are unaware of it, from 2000 to 2011, seven Indigenous high school students died in Thunder Bay, Ontario. They were hundreds of kilometers away from their families, forced to leave home because there was no adequate high school on their reserves. Five were found dead in the rivers surrounding Lake Superior, below a sacred Indigenous site. Using a sweeping narrative focusing on the lives of the students, award-winning investigative journalist Tanya Talaga delves into the history of this northern city that has come to manifest Canada's long struggle with human rights violations against Indigenous communities. And I have to tell you, every single human being who has picked up this book and read it has raved about it. And I did interview Tanya about this book back when I read it a few years ago. And to this day, she is still our most downloaded episode. So if you get a chance, I'll put the date on there. I don't know that
Yeah.
I'll link to the thing directly, but anyway, listen to that interview. She's just amazing. She also has a new book out, which, do you know the title of it offhand?
Can't remember it
Yeah,
offhand. Yeah.
I'll put it in the show notes as well. But she has a new book coming out, but I'm so excited to see her in person. I cannot wait. So yeah.
It'll be super fun. Good times. Good times. So
Yeah,
lame.
I
Okay.
can't wait.
My next one, Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stewart. Finally, many years after the party, after he won the Booker for it, I read it. It's beautiful. It's very depressing as well. There's very little hope, but I'm glad I read it, and I have his second book on the shelf, and we'll read that as well. I know I usually like a little bit of hope in my books, so there's not much in this one, but I'm going to take from it that Shuggie Bain does survive. He's doing it. He's doing his thing, whatever he needs to get by. Quickly. I think it's set in the 1980s, Glasgow. Shuggie is a young boy who's with his mom, who has some serious addiction issues, and it's their story of surviving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's on my list for sure. Because you made it definitely sound worthwhile to read it. I mean, I know it has a great reputation, but after you talked about it, because I was aware of it, but didn't really have it on my list until you've talked about it, and I thought, yep, I think I'm gonna put that on there and read it. So
Yeah. I think you'll really enjoy it. It's
yeah,
a good one.
okay.
Yeah.
My last one
Yeah.
is because I haven't actually most of the books. It's so funny. Most of the books I've read since last time we did this back in May, actually, they were all on my e-reader. But as soon as I have read them, they're library ones that I've
Yeah.
read. I return them, so I
Yeah.
don't have as much to talk about that I've read recently. But the next author who is coming to Eden Mills that I am just over the moon, I cannot wait, is Drew Hayden Taylor. And this
Yeah.
is Chasing Painted Horses, which was the first book I read. This was a few years ago that I read it. I will just read a little bit about it. If you haven't read it, read it. It's fabulous. When Ralph Thomas comes across graffiti of a horse in an alleyway in the early hours of the morning, he is stopped in his tracks. He recognizes this horse. The half asleep Indigenous homeless man sees Ralph's reaction to the horse and calls out to him. Over the course of a morning's worth of hot coffee on a bitterly cold day, Ralph and the homeless man talk, and Ralph remembers a troubling moment from his childhood when an odd little girl, Danielle, drew the most beautiful and intriguing horse on his mother's everything wall.
Mm.
And it's an incredible story. You haven't read this one yet, have you?
No, that sounds so good.
I love this book. And it's funny, it's set in Toronto and it's wintertime, and you just you feel the place of it. And
Yeah.
I absolutely love this book. And you, what's the one you just read by
I think it's
him?
called Cold. Was that it? Was
Cold.
Cold, right? Again,
Yeah.
set in Toronto in the wintertime. Interesting.
Yeah. So I definitely in fact, I think I might read that one. I'm definitely going to read it before uh, I see him in at Eden Mills. But two things about his writing. One is that he's really funny. Like even if it's a tough subject, he's still very, very funny. Like he's very entertaining. And the other thing is he makes reference to real people in the world. So when you're reading it, you're like, wait a minute, he's talking about, because he'll mention like individual authors, like indigenous authors
Yes.
or people. And
Yeah.
that's actually just a really kind of fun, cool thing. And since you said he did that in Cold,
Yeah.
I guess that's just kind of his vibe. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know he did that in that book as well. And
Yeah.
because I was going to ask you in Cold, he's very, I've seen some interviews with him. He's very funny in person,
Yeah.
like a funny person.
Yeah.
And I found that there's humor in the book I read in Cold. And I was going to ask, I wouldn't have expected it in the book as you described it, the horse book.
Yeah.
but that there's humor in there. I love that.
Yeah. And I won't say it's not like
Not
slapstick humor.
funny,
It's just
no.
that there's stuff in there that just makes you laugh. And then you just think, wow, I think that's just who he is as a human being. Because like you said, you've heard that he's very entertaining and funny, like in person. I don't think I've listened to any podcast or anything or seen an interview with him. So I'm really excited to see him in September. So
Yeah, me
yes, I
too.
can't wait.
Okay, so I have two books left. I'm going
Okay.
to not put them chronologically. I'm going to leave my favorite one for last, actually, that I've read. Oh, they're both nonfiction. So this one, memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I just finished this a couple days ago. It's very entertaining, which is a weird thing to say because it's also very difficult subject matter. Jeanette was a child actor who was pushed into it by her mom. Um, she never wanted to do it. And then her mom was all directly responsible, I'm going to say it, for giving her, or that's not the, responsible for her anorexia and bulimia. Like it's really weird. When she tells the story, there's just this one moment when her mom just, what her mom says and does, is just, there it is. I'm like, that's just the start of it. And it's then, a lifelong struggle for her to deal with it. And it's
Yeah.
hard to say, but I'm like, I was glad when her mom died as well for her to start on some kind of journey eventually. But it's very good. Uh, so dark topic, but short chapters. So it's an easy read. The way she writes makes it an easy read. You want to flip through it. You want to know more of her story. I still, in the end, I'd heard great things about it. I don't think I didn't connect with it as much as I thought I would, which is weird. Like I've heard such great things. So I think there was just a slight um, letdown from what I was expecting. But I
Hmm.
wonder if that might even just be a due to an age gap between us. So I had no, she was on I can't remember, a children's show anyways, like that I've heard of, but I never would have watched. I don't think my kids even watched it. If they did, I didn't watch it with them. So I had no connection with her prior to reading this book. So I wonder if, I don't know.
I,
You know what I
I
mean?
don't know because it was funny. After when you told me you had picked it up, I was able to download the audio version and I started listening to the audio and it didn't grab me. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it was either. And I didn't get that far into it, but I thought maybe I think I should read it in paper instead of, because I thought listening to it would be really good because
Yeah.
I'm really liking listening to memoirs
Yeah.
in audio. But it's funny, it didn't really grab me.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I don't know.
And I don't necessarily think it's because, like you said, maybe, you didn't know her show or whatever.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, we've read and listened to tons of memoirs of people we
True.
don't,
Good point. Yeah.
you know, that weren't famous really, that were just regular people. And
Yeah.
so maybe there is something that's
Yeah.
a little
Like,
bit of a barrier in some way.
yeah. And maybe that is, uh, she's not purposely doing, but her writing, like maybe she needed that in order to, but having said that, she shares a lot. Like she is, like, as people do in memoirs, like she shares a lot of her story, a lot of intimate personal details. But I still found there was just a slight disconnect that I didn't quite make with her, like that connection. So
There was that one that I read. I tried reading and I ended up skimming some of it too, and I never did finish it. And that was I can't think of the name of the actress, but she's Asian American and
yes.
she was in the Crazy Rich Asians, the main character female. Can't think of
Yes.
her name. But anyway, yeah, I really was I heard her speak about her memoir and I thought, oh my gosh, she just the way she told her
Mhm.
story about her memoir, I thought I can't wait. And I started reading it and then I didn't enjoy reading it. So I then listened to it and I didn't really enjoy that much.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was. There was something that just felt a little off to me. It was just kind
Mhm.
of weird. So it was the same thing. And there was I felt like I just feel I know this isn't maybe the right way to say it, but it just feels like almost like there's this weird like barrier between me and the
Yes.
memoirist that I'm not somehow connecting to
Yes.
them. And I just don't know what that is. I don't know.
Yeah, like now as you're saying that, I'm like, I almost felt like maybe I was watching a show and where they're both actresses, like, or were actresses. So maybe it's just that, like, that I wasn't welcomed, like, I wasn't made to be part of the story, but that I was
Yeah.
watching it from afar, kind of thing, like just observing it.
Okay. That, especially the one I was talking about with the Asian actress, that
Yeah.
is exactly how it was. I felt like I was watching something and there was a distance and I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like a part.
Yes.
I wasn't drawn in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you nailed it. I think you nailed it.
Yeah.
Yep. That's how I felt. That's
Because I did
interesting.
really enjoy it, and I wanted to know her story. I found the story of her part in Hollywood and on TV like really interesting to know about the life of a child actor, but I just,
Mhm.
yeah, like I just couldn't quite get super invested in the story.
Maybe it's that as actors, now that I think about it, because both of those are actors. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking of all the memoirs that I've read that I've loved of famous and not famous people.
Yeah.
And I've never really felt and the only other one I didn't like was the Paul Newman one.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some weird thing with actors. I don't
Oh,
know, man. I don't know.
interesting. Hmm. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
I don't read a lot of like actor memoirs, so
Yeah.
to see if
Well, I'm
that,
not
but I
going to
will
anymore.
have to pay attention next time I do one. Now I want to pick one up just to see if I'm like the same thing. Hmm.
Oh, I'll let you borrow the Paul Newman one. No, I think I ended up
Oh,
donating it because I
no.
hated it so much.
I was going to say, I don't want to. Okay, my last book, which is my one of my favorites. It'll be one of my favorites of the year. You may already know The Backyard Bird Chronicles with Amy Tan. Oh my God, this book is so good. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. So Amy Tan is the American author, and she became a birder and an illustrator and this is essentially her journal starting in, I'm going to see what
Okay.
year she started it in. Sorry. Oh, 2018 and up into the present to COVID through COVID. And she would give, it includes, so her journal excerpts and then her drawings. And her drawings are from when she's like very beginner and starting out. And she will tell you that still think they're beautiful. Like, I think anyone's drawings are beautiful, but you can see the progression as she goes through and just the story, the way she talks about the birds, like she loves her birds. She
Yeah.
really like it. They're a huge part of her. I'm like, look at this illustration.
Oh,
Like that is one of
wow.
her illustrations. They're
That really is
stunning.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're really stunning. I just enjoyed this book so much. As a result, I always like birds too, but I've gotten really invested in my couple bird feeders. I've got the Merlin app to help me identify birds through their song, which I'm really enjoying. Yeah. I saw a red-tailed hawk last night in the cemetery on our walk, and
That's exciting.
that was exciting. Not exciting how she watched Jessie. She was like really, and I'm like,
Ooh.
Jessie's a golden retriever. I'm like, Jessie's fine. And I was able to get like really close. So I was just below her. I'm saying her. I don't actually couldn't tell you if it was male or female. Um,
Yeah.
but and she did not move. That bird did not move. She stayed in that branch and her head just followed Jessie. It was very
Wow.
cool. But
Now,
yeah,
did you see her first or hear her first?
I saw her like
Yeah.
from a distance, from quite a ways. I could, because I'm always looking around as because Jessie is a slow walker, so I have lots of time to look around. So I was looking around, I was like, oh, what's that? And I'm like, oh, why? And then so I kept getting closer. And with my Merlin app, you can snap a picture as well. If you get a really
Mhm.
good picture, and it will also identify through the picture. So I was able to get close enough to get a good picture to have it identify through there too. And she this whole time just sat there looking at us. Amazing.
You know, it's funny when I lived in California, I had a job for like 10 or 12 years. I was commuting to from Sacramento to Stockton, California, for a part-time job. And along because it's all like agricultural land and stuff, and there were all the posts where the fences were, and there would just be hawks sitting on those posts, and it would just and you're close enough to from the highway to the where the fence line was, and I would just think, God, they're keeping the mice down or other animals in the fields and stuff, and they were living their best lives right there in that sort of semi-urban rural area. So it's amazing.
They are.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
cool. So,
Yeah. So I highly recommend if anyone, if you have like any interest at all in birds, but she's just a beautiful writer, beautiful illustrations. You get a really deep appreciation for birds.
and would you want to just here at the end here just mention Eden Mills, kind of your experience of Eden Mills, a little bit about it? You want to just mention it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't forget we're going to do our new little segment too. I have a couple other little books to share for something else. That my
Not
new
what that
books,
is.
the
Oh yeah,
adding
yeah,
to
that's
my
right.
shelf.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
instead of reading
Okay.
from my shelf, I'm doing adding to my shelf. Okay, yes, Eden Mills. It started must be 30 years ago, right? 30 plus years. It's been going on a
Yeah.
long time. I think I've been going for about 20 years. It is my favorite day of the year. Eden Mills is a small community just outside of Guelph, Ontario. So maybe about 45 minutes away from where I live. Uh, I think they're trying to be like the first carbon neutral community in North America. I don't know, something like that. But they will,
Yeah.
for one day of the year, they shut down entrance to the city, to the village on both ends, so that the village just becomes pedestrian, unless you need a shuttle to get to the different locations, because it's an all outdoor event with different locations throughout the village, with the people who live in those homes like donate their backyard or whatever to for literacy, basically for books, for the love of books. And you just go and you travel around and you listen to, usually it's a panel of three authors at a time, grouped under like a special, like a common theme. And you just sit there and you listen to authors read from their books, talk, answer questions. You get an opportunity to then go purchase books and have them sign your book if you would so like. It is the best day of the year.
And in fact, last year, Ali Hassan was there with his book, and I stood in line to chat with him. And as soon as I walked up, I said, "Hi, Ali. And I didn't even get to say Rebecca, and he went Rebecca because he recognized me, obviously, because we see each other during
Yeah.
because we've interviewed him so many times, and my voice as well. And that just made me that was just
Yeah.
just a thrill. But I got to meet him in person for the first time, so that was really fun too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an awesome
So
day. It's a
yes,
special
I
day.
can't wait. Can't wait.
Special. Oh, I can't remember the date. I wish I should be able to tell
It's
you.
September. Oh, I will tell you really quick because I actually have it on
Okay.
my calendar already. It's the beginning of September, but it is September 8th, Sunday, September 8th.
Hey, okay. We
Yeah.
will be there. If you see us
Yes.
and you're there, pop
Yes.
over, say hello.
Yes. 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 That would be wonderful. Yes, I love that. Yes. If you see us,
Yeah.
yeah, say hi.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay,
Okay.
now
So
your new feature.
yeah. So just before we popped online, I said to Rebecca, I'm like, I kind of want to add a new feature. And like, because we show the books that we've read from our shelves, I'm like, how about we show the books that we've added to our shelves? Because we're trying to, I know it's the reverse of what we're trying to do, which is read from our shelves. But we always add a few books, probably every few months, anyways. I don't
Yeah.
know if Rebecca, do you have anything to share today? Or because I just threw this on you literally 2 minutes before we logged on. So it's okay if you don't. I
I
just
will
want
do
to,
it next time because I do
okay,
have new ones, but they're downstairs on a different shelf. My
okay,
new books
yeah.
sit on a different shelf. Yeah.
I apologize. I really
Oh
did
no,
throw
it's
this
okay.
like with only 2 minutes to spare. So I last week, my family and I, we went camping in Awenda, and we went to did a little day trip to Midland, a community just outside of the park. And there's a sweet little bookstore that's there that's new. It's Cedar Canoe Book. Nope, nope, sorry. Take that back. That's not the right one. It's called Georgian Bay Books. Georgian Bay Books. Cedar Canoe, I think, is in Huntsville. So it's Georgian Bay Books in Midland. And I bought two books. So I got a Leslie Crew book, Death and Other Inconveniences. Leslie
Oh,
Crew is the author of The Spoon Stealer, which was long listed for Canada Reads a few years ago. I loved that book. I'd read another of hers called Nosy Parker. I love that one. So I'm essentially like looking for if I see a Leslie Crew book, I pick it up. And plus, look, I mean, look how pretty again. That's
it's
so pretty.
beautiful.
So
Now,
pretty.
is that a that's not recent, is it?
I
It's
don't
been out for
think
a while. Because
so.
that one
It's
I've not heard
also
of.
most
So
recent.
yeah, I know
Wait,
most of her new stuff.
this said 2024. Is this a new book and I had no idea? Maybe I thought it was an older, so maybe it's
Yeah,
her
I
most
haven't heard of it.
recent book. I don't know. Maybe it's her most recent book, and I just happened to pick it up. So there we go.
Man, I'm looking that up. Cool.
Yeah, it's
I
about
love it.
Margot, a widow. Dick's dead. Now what does she do? I like a book about a widow too. I'll be honest. Oops, sorry, I just dropped
Love
my
that.
pen. So
Ah,
that's the new, I guess, apparently the new Leslie Crew book. I thought I was getting like an oldie, but it's a new one. And this won't be any surprise because I've also come to realize that I like nonfiction books about birds. Shocker. I got this one's been on my to buy list for like 3 or 4 years, but I hadn't seen it. Field Notes from an Unintentional Birder
oh yeah.
by Julia Zarankin, which I'd heard of, I think, on through
Hmm.
CBC a few years ago.
Hmm.
And I think it is just that she one day starts without any plans, she becomes a birder. She becomes a bird person, and this is her story. And I like even in the bio at the end. Oh yes, it says her birding slash life aspirations: to sport the hairdo of a cedar waxwing, acquire the wardrobe of the northern flicker, and develop the confidence of a Ross's goose. I just think that's the coolest thing.
Love
And she's
it.
in Toronto.
Oh,
So those are my two newest additions to my bookshelf.
okay. Those are brilliant. Yeah, that Death and Other Inconveniences.
Yeah,
It says published June 18th, 2024. So
no,
you
yeah.
literally just
I
got
just,
it.
yeah.
So cool. All right, great. Okay. Well,
Okay.
I think we've given you a ton of options today, as
Yep.
always, and we look forward to some comments, whether you've read anything that we've talked about, or always we're open to suggestions, so feel free to make those as well. And again, like I said, we have a lot of interviews coming up with different authors, and we hope you enjoy those. And we also will be doing a podcast coming soon about what we've read most recently.
Yeah. Yeah. So we will talk to you then. Feel free to share your favorite reads from your reading shelf. We would love to hear them. And happy reading, everyone. Till next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Hopefully I turn this off right. All right, let's go.